Good day, and welcome back to Unsolved Mysteries, the series where we cover death, disappearances, and odd occurrences. Today, we cover the odd vanishing of Amelia Earhart, a mystery that has remained for almost 50 years now. With that said, I'm PBJ, and let's dive into this. On the morning of July 2nd, 1937, Amelia Earhart and her navigator, Fred Noonan, disappeared without a trace near Howland Island. Before we dive deeper, we must get into the background of Amelia Earhart. Earhart was born Amelia Mary Earhart, July 24th, 1897. At a young age, she developed a knack for adventure and flight. When she was just 31, she became the first female ever to fly across the Atlantic Ocean. She also flew solo to Hawaii, Mexico City, and successfully flew from New York to California, demonstrating her ability to fly. One day, she wanted to take it to the next level. She wanted to be the first woman or man in history to circumnavigate the globe. The planning took nearly a year, but when complete, she set off June 1st with Fred Noonan, an experienced navigator, and a Lockheed Electra 10E, a plane intricately designed to carry over 1,000 gallons of fuel. The plane was to fly from Miami, refuel at San Juan, Venezuela, Suriname, Brazil, Senegal, French Sudan, FE Africa, Egypt Sudan, East Africa, British India, Siam, Australia, and her last known record at Lae, New Guinea. From Lae, she was to refuel at Howland Island and fly back to California. Near Howland Island, the U.S. Itasca was to make transmission calls every hour with Earhart. At around 3 p.m., she reported, quote, "Altitude 10,000 feet. Nobody knows for sure why she made the climb, as it would consume a lot of fuel, although reportedly it was because of some mountains. 5 p.m., she reported, altitude 7,000 feet, speed 40 knots, end quote. The next morning, sometime between 7:30 and 7:40, she said, running out of gas, only half an hour left, can't hear us at all, end quote. And another one at 7:42, quote, Itasca, we must be on you, but we can't see you. But gas is running low. Being unable to reach you by radio. We are flying at 1,000. End quote. They were close enough that one member aboard the Itasca went outside to find Earhart, but found nothing. Her last transmission was frantic. Quote, we are on the line of 157-337. We will repeat this message. We will repeat this message on 6,210 kilocycles. Wait! End quote. After this, no other transmission was heard. The Itasca, after searching for miles, called off of the search, and they were both officially pronounced dead. So with all of that presented, it's time to jump in to some theories. Our first theory is the official report at the time. The Navy simply concluded that Earhart and Noonan had perished and ran out of fuel, crashing into the Pacific. The evidence for this account is the most accurate because of the transmissions to the Itasca. It is very likely that the jump to 10,000 feet would consume a lot of fuel, but it also comes clearer when you consider the massive headwinds that day, which can lead to more fuel consumption, gas starvation, and even the wings snapping off. The area around Howland Island is also said to be one of the deepest parts of the ocean, so it is very likely that if they had crashed, it would make sense for the wreckage to be submerged. While this may seem like the best answer, let's attempt to disprove this theory. The biggest piece of evidence is the fact that Noonan and Earhart had life preservers and that they had a large raft on the plane. Not only that, but the plane, after coming into contact with water, would stay out of the water for over 4 hours, long enough for some ship to spot them. In fact, with the raft and emergency supplies, they could have stayed alive for days. Our second theory is a very interesting one. The last known location of Earhart was 157337. Along that line is a small atoll known as Nakimaroro, which at the time would have been enough landing space to act as a small airstrip and would have been habitable. As mentioned previously stated, they had emergency supplies, making it likely they could survive. Controversially, many had heard radio from Earhart. One girl wrote it down in a notebook and wrote down, quote, "This is Amelia Earhart, help me," and, quote, "almost under," end quote. Somewhere a few days after they died of starvation, a plane flew over the atoll and saw habitation. The pilot at first didn't call it in, but soon there was a team of investigators down there. The search in question was in 1940. They found a campfire, a pair of shoes, and a partial human skeleton. The DNA of the bones were examined and determined to be of European descent, and a height of about 5'7", very similar to Earhart's height. The investigators wanted to conduct another search, but the keeper of the bones incinerated them, making it so that any attempt to find the answer combusted along with the bones. Our third and final theory has to do with the expanding imperialist Japan at the time. On the line nearby was the Japanese-controlled Marshall Islands. As the theory goes, they had to make an emergency landing on the island, from which then they were taken prisoner by the Japanese. They were then taken to Saipan to be tortured and executed. A local woman claims that she was there when Earhart crashed. Quote, "They had them line up in a row and had them strip. It was there that they saw one was a woman. They locked both of them up for being spies. When they would give the woman rice, she refused. I was in the rice field when I heard a motorcycle. They had the woman blindfolded and forced her into a dugout hole. Then they shot her and buried her. An excavation of the supposed death hole was conducted. All they found was the supposed blindfold that Earhart had on. What's also interesting is that when the island was liberated by the U.S., one Marine found Earhart's plane in a hangar. One claimed that he saw a private plane fly over the island and later incinerated. One even claimed that he blew a safe open and found a bag of Amelia Earhart's belongings. He later gave it to the commanding officer, and nothing has ever heard since. Alternatively, another part of this theory states that they weren't captured and in fact lived out the rest of their lives in Saipan. One convincing photo shows one Fred Noonan and an Earhart on a dockyard. Otherwise, there's no concrete evidence supporting that they lived. Whether Earhart and Noonan crashed into the ocean, lived as castaways, or even executed by the Japanese, this mystery may forever be unsolved.